What is up, everybody? It is another beautiful Sunday morning, and you are watching the Super Gamecast. I am your host and only guest today, Bronson Fiore, as Aaron is out for the week. He is off cleaning his apartment as he is moving, and today is the last day he can do that. And then Duncan is still in Thailand, and we have used most of our Anthony allocations for the year, so he is not going to be on this week. So it's just me. You get me and only me. Really, I'm the only one who loves you. That's the truth of it. It actually sounds kind of culty when I say it that way. Anyway, so yeah, hey man, another week of games happen. Video games happen. I actually didn't. Well, I played a lot of video games this week, specifically a pair of video games. I'll get into that more a little later. But, yeah, no, otherwise, pretty chill week. Hung out with friends and family a lot. Got to go and, go to a buffet with a bunch of friends. Went to sushi with Steph for her graduation, her master's. Got to do a bunch of that fun stuff. I went some with my grandfather. My girlfriend and I decorated for Christmas and got the house all together. And then tonight we're having more people over. And after all of that, I'm pretty good until Christmas. Like, I don't need to socialize anymore. I used to be somebody with a really high social battery. Like, I used to be able to go for long periods of time, just socializing back to back to back to back to back to back. Now, like, I get a couple days in, and then, like, I'm good for, like, 3 weeks. At least when it's, like, this much, like, every day. Normally, I can, like, socialize, like, once a week. But, no. Now it's more like, if you have me, 7 straight days of peopling, then I'm gonna be very much like I am now, where I'm done. I'm pretty tired. Want to go home. But hey, that's not what we're here to talk about. You hear about the news, is what my understanding is, and also hear mine and normally Aaron's take on it. So let's get into that, shall we? All right. Whoop. All right, so first up is Epic Games. Mr. Tim Sweeney, the head of Epic Games, says, why stop AI use? We could have mandatory disclosures for what shampoo brand the developer uses. Tim Sweeney says Steam should ditch its AI-generated content disclosure. This story is courtesy of the fine folks at IGN. So Sweeney believes there's no point in having such disclosures because pretty much all video games will use AI. Responding to one Twitter user who called on Steam and all digital marketplaces to drop made with AI labels because it doesn't matter anymore, Sweeney agreed. The AI tag is relevant to art exhibits for authorship disclosure and digital content licensing marketplaces where buyers need to understand the rights situation. It makes no sense for game stores. Well, AI will be involved in nearly all future productions. See, here's the problem, though, is it's currently not in every production. And some people do have an ethical issue with AI. Like some people do not want to buy a game made with AI. I know a lot of people who, for example, will not play Arc Raiders. They will not touch it because of the AI voice actors and then putting voice actors out of work. Some people have problems with AI due to the energy usage. There's a lot of reasons why you might not want to buy games that have AI, and there are plenty of games that still don't. Hundreds of indie games every week don't. So, if you're mainly just talking about AAA video games, sure. I guess, if you want to drop that out of games that have a $100 million plus budget, sure. You're right, Tim Sweeney. But I think in general, no. And then I think the next problem is a lot of the time the AI usage is shit. I think people wouldn't care nearly as much about the AI usage or AI issues and dealing with AI if it didn't look so fucking bad. And most of the time, it just makes the game worse. The big example that stands out in this story and amongst most people recently is like Call of Duty using them for these calling cards. Like, these look like shit. I want to be very clear. These look like shit. And they are very obviously AI generated. These are this tweet here says almost every single campaign and endgame calling card, it looks like a Grok AI generated image. And yeah, it absolutely does. It looks like shit. And you can clearly tell when it's AI too. Like you can tell because of the line work and how they all are that like waxiness to them, and like no one really cared about the details and things of that nature. You know, it's the same way like it hasn't been explicitly stated, but the Black Ops 7 campaign very clearly feels like it's written by AI. The way the story flows, the way the story moves, it very much feels like someone threw a prompt of, hey, write me a story for a hypothetical Black Ops 7 and make sure these characters are in it so they can nostalgia bait you with stuff from the older Call of Duties. Like, that is something that is very apparent. So yeah, I think that I think this is bullshit. I think that there's and then just AI is such the Wild West right now. I think that's another part of it that is not being discussed. I think AI is going to eventually be part of every game creation. It's just the technology is so early and a lot of it is bad. And we don't know how far we can take it. So, no, I think consumers deserve to know. And I think consumers deserve to know when it comes to anything they're buying, how it is made. Like ideally, every brand you should be able to see into, hey, these are how we treat our workers, this is how we make the device you use, this is how we work with all of this. Is that necessarily the case every time? No. But I think that's how it should go. I think that his argument here is also stupid because it's very apparent there's going to be a lot of people. Like, what about the guy who made Balatro, right? That's like one dude. And yeah, I don't know. It's like he didn't use AI for that. And that was recent. That was a last year game. The article here mentions it's no surprise Sweeney's take on the position, given Fortnite uses a ton of AI. Over the summer, they released AI Darth Vader into Fortnite and announced plans to let people create their own AI NPCs. The original Vader was voiced by James Earl Jones, who died September of last year at age 93. The AI version was powered by Gemini and Event 11 Labs Flash version 2.5 with the permission of Jones's family. I think that this is a bastardization, in all honesty. I think that it feels like, one, you're removing the chance for new actors to come in and make cool shit. Like that's the first thing. Like a new Darth Vader, or God forbid, Star Wars makes a new character that resonates with people on the level of Darth Vader, or not even Star Wars, God forbid, a new science fantasy IP. But Star Wars prints money, so they're going to do Darth Vader, and they're going to get permission from the family to, like bastardize James Earl Jones. It's frustrating. It's frustrating just because it's so early, and every business is rushing into it because of how much it reduced costs. Like that's the whole reason why every company in the world. It's not like they know it's going to be this groundbreaking tech. They know that if it becomes this groundbreaking tech, it will save them a shit ton of money. But as of right now, what you're getting is Call of Duty calling cards that look like this. That look like shit. Like, look how bad this looks. Look how fucking horribly bad this looks. It's just... Yeah, like, I can't... You know, and these ones, like, just don't make any sense for Call of Duty. I literally think that someone at the studio, not necessarily an artist, because I don't think an artist would do this, but I do think that some of the studio thought, oh, that Ghibli trend is cool with AI, and just did a bunch of Call of Duty Ghibli ones, I guess. That's my best guess, anyway. You know, but yeah, so no, I think that he's wrong, and you know, he spoke to IGN in June and said teams would soon be able to use AI prompts to make video games on the scale of Breath of the Wild. Dude, doubt, super hardcore doubt. You know, and they're expecting the technology to improve a lot over the next 5, 10, etc. years, and I'm like, yeah, sure, but once you have to wait for the technology to be at that point. Because right now, not disclosing AI usage literally can just fuck over consumers. And obviously he is saying this because it's in his benefit. There's no other reason beyond it benefits Tim Sweeney for you not to know if a game has AI usage. And this is the shit why Steam is just still ahead of that big game store, right? It's like Steam focuses on its customers, Epic and other stores focus on their business. It's as simple as that. Anyway, so that's that. I don't know. We'll see how that does, you know, in the coming years. I'm after the success of Arc Raiders, I am kind of curious how far AI voice acting can go. The fact that that game has and will continue to have AI voice acting, and I am curious to see if more studios hop on that bandwagon and how successful it is if they do. That's kind of where I am with it. But yeah, we'll see. Every week, this AI stuff gets more and more contentious and more talked about. Anyway, next news story. The Steam machine could cost around $700, build analysis estimates. I think it means $700 USD if there are no changes in the market. Steam Machine announced earlier this month with this story from VGC, by the way, Video Games Chronicle. You should go there. They're a good website. Steam Machine was announced earlier this month with the 2026 launch window. No official pricing details. However, Valve has said that if you build a PC from parts and get basically the same level of performance, that's the price performance we aim to be. In a new video by Linus Tech Tips, he takes on the challenge to build a PC with similar specs to the Valve device, using it to estimate how much a Steam Machine could retail for. If you were to build a Steam Machine with the lowest historical prices, it could cost around $602. That would be amazing. I would love a $600 Steam Machine. However, in today's market with inflated component prices, it could be as high as $910 or $813 with lesser brands. Taking into account retailer profit margins, which Valve would not have to consider due to its direct-to-consumer model, and the fact that it would be able to source some components cheaper, like power supplies and motherboards, Linus estimates the Steam Machine will retail for around $700. He said it's probably above Valve's cost today, and there'll be some opportunity for them to improve margins over several years. With and as their initial investment pays off, hopefully RAM and SSD pricing return to some form of normality. He had the Steam Machine presents a compelling deal at that price without completely undercutting the market. Valve says it will reveal the Steam Machine pricing ahead of its release next year, and much of its success will depend on that price. Yeah, I think that video game hardware is about to be in a real hard spot. I actually think it could cause the delay of the next-gen consoles. I know that I know that a lot of publishers, a lot of developers, Sony and Microsoft leaks have all said 2027, PS6, Xbox Series X, PC, Luxury Edition Q, whatever the fuck they're going to call the next Xbox. 2027, and I think that it's just too soon. But not to get off track with that. I think $700 is a fair price, and I think you will get people to buy in as like an entry-level PC. Like, I think you will get people into the Steam ecosystem, into the PC gaming space, who normally wouldn't be there. I think that will be a good spot for you if you were in that case. I think that 700 though, for a lot of people, is still not good enough. They're going to expect console pricing, whether that's fair or not. Like I think that's wildly unfair because this is a computer. You can do computer things with it. You can go and install emulators and go play PS1, PS2, NES, Neo Geo games, all that kind of shit. You can go do your taxes on it. Like this thing has a regular ass web browser that you can just go into and do the internet. It's kind of awesome, right? From your TV with a touchpad, on-screen keyboard, that kind of thing. Put it on your desk, turn it into a workstation. And so I think that the thing is, like most people, especially like your more casual gaming audience or just your gaming audience in general, is going to want to treat this like a console, and that's where $700 seems a bit high. But that's also when I look at the wider, broader market as a whole, and I go, well, I think that the next PlayStation, the PlayStation 6, is going to be $600 to $700. And I think the next Xbox, from everything they've said, is going to be $800 to $1,200. So I very easily could see a world where a $700 Steam machine is actually very reasonable. It's just in the current space where you can get a PS5 Pro, which is going to be more powerful than this, if ever so slightly, for around the same price, when you can get a regular PS5 for less, then I think this is a hard pill to swallow at 700 versus at 600. I think that for most people it is a day one buy. I think if it goes up to 900, that's crazy. I think if this thing goes up to $900, it's screwed. I recently did a build test with Anthony. We like, out of curiosity, we were like building PCs on PC Part Picker at different price ranges to see what it is like to price out a PC for someone nowadays. And I think for a lower mid-range machine, and this is assuming you got Windows through like a key site, so you weren't paying the full $100, but you're paying like $30. And we landed on a total of around $900, I believe it was. I'm gonna try and pull up the list now. Oh no, excuse me, 1,035. We ended up at 1,035, in which this would be quite a bit more powerful than what you would be getting in a Steam machine, for especially on the CPU end of things and the amount of RAM, and it's also it's a regular PC, so yes, it's going to be bigger, but it's going to be modular, and you're spending so you're looking at significantly more longevity, because then you just be like, okay, I have more money now, I'm gonna go from this 9060 XT to a 9070 XT, or I'm gonna go take this 9600X and put in a 9800X 3D, right? Like that's where the advantage of a regular PC comes in versus this thing, which is I think this is like a good example of my first start of a computer. Like you want to get into PC gaming, you want to go mess around in Linux, maybe you want to build a Plex server, You want in the living room. It's cheap. It's small, or cheap in quotes, and small. But for someone who plays video games only, and like you're currently on PlayStation and happy with it, I'm not entirely sure this is for you. Unless you really want some of the benefits that come with PC gaming outside of visuals. You want to be able to emulate, you want to be able to access a far broader range of games that are only on the computer. You want to, you want to go and not have to worry about paying a subscription to play online games. Then I think the Steam Machine in that case is very compelling, and it's just like, I don't know. I think $700 is about like what I would be wanting to get one for. Like that's my point. I think the second that you hit $1,000, or even $900, like also there's gonna be two models, like a 512 game and a 2 terabyte. I think 700. I think 700 for the 512, 800 for the 2 terabyte. Totally reasonable. Okay, cool. I think if you go higher, like $1,000 and 900, this thing becomes very uninteresting, I feel, for most people. So we'll see. And it depends on how Valve how badly does Valve want to go into the living room and start eating that console market share. Because I mean, the Steam Deck has been a very niche device, right? Like that's another thing. Like, I know we talk about how the Steam Deck is a big success, and I love mine. I love my Steam Deck. I use it almost every night. But it is very much a device that is. It is very much a device that is still very niche. Like in the gaming spaces, it's big. Almost all my friends own one. Or they own some sort of PC handheld based on the Steam Deck, like an ROG Ally or something along those lines. But I think outside of that though, it's but I think outside of that though, it's basically it's not a device for everyone. Oh, good to know. The audio for this is bad for the first 20 or so minutes. Awesome. We got a comment letting me know about the double microphone problem. Fantastic. Feel great about that. All right, well, that sucks. Anyway. Yeah, so could cost around $700. That's where we are at today with the Steam Machine. I hope they're right. Anyway, next news story. Get this pulled up. Hopefully what I just did fixed the microphone issue. All right. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, why is that not... I am so confused on why this is the way it is. Okay. Anyway, hey guys, this is the first time I've done a solo podcast in a very long time. There's gonna be problems. Anyway, let's talk about some Switch game sales. Kirby Air Riders to the top of the Japanese physical charts as Switch and Switch 2 games sweep the top 15. 18 of the top 20 games this week in Japan were released on Nintendo consoles. Kirby Air Riders has debuted as the top game on the Japanese physical charts this week, which has largely been dominated by the Switch 2 and the Switch. So in their top 20 games, 15 were Switch or Switch 2 releases. Only 2 games in the top 20 were PS5, with all of the top 15 being Switch or Switch 2. So this is the chart. It might be hard to read on the screen right now. Screen, but number 1 Kirby, number 2 Mario Kart, 3 Pokemon, number 4 Momotaro Dentetsu 2. Your Town is Surely There Too, East and West Japan Edition for Switch. Pokemon ZA again, but for Switch 2. That same game for Switch 2. Hyrule Warriors, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake, Minecraft, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake Switch 2, R-Type Delta HD Boosted, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Railway Nippon Real Pro Long Distance Driving Limited Express Hinotori Kintetsu Edition. Black Ops 7, PS5. It is crazy how even in Japan, Call of Duty is insanely popular. Like, almost any other shooter would never get into the top 20, even in Japan. Or in Japan, that's like not like a hero shooter, like standard military. Mario Galaxy 1 plus 2, Sumikiko Garashi, let's create a wonderful Sumikiko Island. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, model debut number 4, Nicola. Yeah, what this tells me is, yo, dog, the Switch, it dominates Japan. And this is exactly why, for the Switch 2, they got a special Japanese language region lock console that was cheaper. Because Nintendo knows that they have a hardcore foothold in Japan, and they don't want to give that up. It is basically the short version of this. So yeah, no, I think that, and from what I've played of Kirby Air Raiders, it's super fun. So this is well deserved. I think that, you know, this tells me that no matter what Sony does, they are losing ground in Japan as a console manufacturer. And Nintendo's going to keep, pushing that advantage and putting out great games like Kirby Air Raiders. Kind of a short story, but anyway. Next one, we're kind of going rapid fire because the last thing I have is kind of going to be a longer bit. But moving forward here. Sega suggests expectations for definitive editions could be behind disappointing launch sales. As spotted by GameBiz, the Sonic the Hedgehog and Persona Company opened about its performance throughout the last month during a Q2 financial briefing Q&A with shareholders yesterday. The conversation saw Sega address the thought process behind why sales for its new premium edition and free-to-play games failed to meet expectations, despite generally positive reviews from critics and fans. Sega says a number of elements could be contributing to disappointing returns, including competition from other releases within the same genre, as well as the game publisher suggested gamers could be passing on purchasing games at launch due to the expectation they will be able to purchase definitive editions of those same titles further down the line. Definitive editions, which typically encompass video game re-releases with minor visual upgrades and additional content, have become a popular tactic for publishers to utilize throughout the last decade. Sega is no stranger to the idea either, especially when it comes to Persona and Shin Megami Tensei developer Atlus. The studio has a history of pushing re-releases for games like Persona 4 and 5, with the Golden and Royal versions. There's also Shin Megami Tensei 5, which originally released in 2021, and went on to more platforms with its Vengeance counterpart in 2024. Last year, they released Metaphor ReFantazio, and they have yet to put out a special edition, but I'm going to bet you at some point they will. Sega didn't specifically call any games or franchises, pointing to the definitive edition theory. The company also generally seems hesitant to place blame on any factor for now. While we haven't been able to pinpoint a precise cause of the lower than expected sales performance, we believe the problem also lies in our marketing, which wasn't able to sufficiently convey the appeal of our games to users. It's also unclear if Metaphor ReFantazio or any other Sega series will receive a definitive edition or equivalent release in the future. For now, fans are eagerly awaiting any news Atlus may have to share on Persona 6, a Persona 3, or Persona 4 Revival, and new content rolling out for Sonic Cross Worlds Racing. I think that there is a sentiment among many Atlus fans that, wait for the finished one. Because I think every major Atlus game has gotten that treatment, or almost all of them. I loved Persona 5. Hey, I bought Persona 5 Royal. Hey, I loved Persona 4. I bought Golden. Catherine Full Body. I consider Persona 3 Reload its own thing because it's a remake, but I think that this is it has become a trend with Atlas enough to where you're like, dude, I think I'm going to hold off and wait for the real one. And that makes sense. Just like I think in the case of like Sonic Cross World Racing, a lot of people are going to wait until the season pass is done and see how the first year of tracks go and how they feel about all that. I also think Sonic Cross World Racing had the unfortunate problem of competing with Mario Kart, Fast Fusion, Kirby Air Riders, all in the same year. And after playing all of them, I kind of feel that it is the worst one of those games. Like, unfortunately. I think that the crossover content is cool and it has a cool soundtrack, but I do not think it feels good, nearly as good to drive as Mario Kart or Fast Fusion or even Kirby Air Riders. I think there's this level of floatiness, even relative to kart racers, and it feels bad. Which sucks because they convey a sense of speed really, really well in that game, and it's cool to play as, Ichiban from Sonic, or not from Sonic, from Yakuza, or playing as Joker from Persona and SpongeBob. It's kind of dope. They do the cross-world stuff well, and I think that thing where, you go through the portal and it brings up the new track is awesome, and I love how well it runs on Steam Deck, but it's the one that, like, engrossed me the least out of that racing game bunch. I'm trying to think of what else Sega's put out recently. But yeah, I would not be surprised that, assuming that they don't cancel it because of this news story, I would not be surprised if Capcom, or not Capcom, jeez, I'm already looking ahead to the next news story, if Sega, like, shelved the Metaphor ReFantazio golden full body royal whatever the hell edition they're gonna call it, because, like, never mind, just keep that game the way it is. And I think that sucks because I love those royal golden editions. I think they are normally far better games, but I think for most consumers they feel bad because you feel like you have to buy the game again, and that's, it just feels bad. Like, unless you're a super fan, like I am a Persona Atlas, like, stan, like, sure, I'll happily pay for that game again. But I think for people who aren't in that boat, yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks super hard. Alrighty. Next news story. This one is something I'm excited about. Hopefully it's better than the last one. Capcom is reportedly working on a new Dead Rising sequel starring Frank West. This story comes out of Video Games Chronicle. According to a new report from MP First, which VGC can partially corroborate via their own sources, claims that an in-development zombie action sequel will see the return of the original protagonist Frank West. The project in question won't be a remaster or remake, but a new main entry in the series. It said that the new Dead Rising will see West head to Hollywood, and the action primarily taking in place within a massive enclosed movie studio lot, where the game's main villain forces Frank and other survivors into various trials, all pursuit and filming his perfect movie. Oh, so it's like Saw. Well, not like the perfect movie bit, but like the various trials bit. That sounds sick as fuck. The timing aligns with the recent remaster of the original Dead Rising game, which was released last year with improved visuals, controls, and quality of life improvements. VGC's deluxe rewriting master review called the remaster the perfect setup for a new sequel. Capcom has said it's working on reactivating dormant IPs following the announcement of Onimusha and Okami. They also asked fans what franchise they want to see return via a survey. In addition, they are releasing major new titles each year, re-releasing new titles each year that reactivate, like, the fighting game collection and whatnot. The company is working to further enhance corporate value by leveraging its rich library of content, which includes reviving past IPs, like the two titles announced above, in order to continuously produce highly efficient, highly quality titles. I think that as long as it doesn't turn into Dead Rising 4, where they casualize and sand off all the edges that make Dead Rising interesting, this could be awesome. I think Dead Rising very intentionally has to be kind of shit and annoying in some ways. Like, I think you have to have the timer, you have to have the survival elements. I think you have to have all of that. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel like Dead Rising. Um, it is kind of the long and short of it in my mind, at least. Um, so take that how you will, but I think that there's that. And I think that after the remake and the very, very poor reception to 4 and the lukewarm perception of 3, both of which sanded off a lot of the rougher edges with that franchise, to kind of homogenize it a bit, I think that they probably will do that. I think they probably will return to form. And I think that'd be awesome. I think having the timer, the survival elements, the weird, goofy costumes and weapons. I think Dead Rising is one of those franchises that could be evergreen for them, and you can always keep doing weird shit with it. Because it's very loose. It's like survival zombie game in a mall where you craft shit, or in a wacky setting where you craft shit. I think that's pretty evergreen. There's a lot of loose, cool stuff you could do with it. And I think it's an awesome idea. Well, I'm gonna talk about this game a lot more later, but I think Dead Rising was one of those like early 360 games that one showed off what the 360 can do. Look at all these fucking zombies. Look at all the shit you can do. But so I think there's that, and there's just a level of attachment to that game for a lot of people. And I think that it really, like, 2 was still just as popular, but I think it really started dipping down in 3 and 4. People just started to care less and less. And I bought that remaster last year, but I don't, I'm not sure how well that did for them. But I'd love to see more Dead Rising. It's not first on my Capcom wish list for sure. Like that, like that first on my Capcom wish list is definitely a new Marvel vs. Capcom, and then they're already doing a new Okami, and then I don't know. I would love to see I would love to see a new I would love to see a new what's it called? Devil May Cry. I'd love to see a new Devil May Cry. I'd love to see a DMC 6. I know Itsuno's gone. He's off doing whatever it is he's gonna do, but I think that yep, hold on. Sorry, managing a stream is hard. I haven't done it in a while. But I think that I still think the team that is remaining there could do something really cool with it. But maybe that's just me. Well, anyway, let's get into our next news story, which is Cyberpunk 2077 has now sold 35 million copies, hitting that milestone faster than The Witcher 3 did. Video Games Chronicle, once again, says, despite its troubled start, the game has become a major success. The milestone was hit last quarter as announced during the company's financial results. Given the game was released in December of 2022, it means it sold 35 million copies in just under 5 years. According to the publisher, its sales revenue in the third quarter of 2025 were mainly down to ongoing strong sales of games from its back catalog, primarily 2077 and Phantom Liberty. CD Projekt says the game sold better this year on existing platforms than it did during the same period in 2024, while the base game's addition to PlayStation Plus and Premium contributed to more sales of the Phantom Liberty expansion. The game's release on Switch 2 and Mac this year is also credited as one of the reasons it was able to hit a total of 35 million sales during the last quarter. We're very happy and satisfied with the fact that despite the passage of time, Cyberpunk 2077 remains a well-performing title and continues to attract new players. CD Projekt joint CEO Michael Nowakowski, oof, that's a hard name, said in a statement. Sales of the game have exceeded 35 million, which testifies to this franchise's enduring power and enabled us to be even more audacious about charting its future. So I want to be excited about this because that game is very sick. It is an awesome game now. It is a game I can recommend to basically anybody, and it has become a giant cultural touchstone. I know people who have played that game and really enjoy that game who like have brought their slang into their real life. The word corpo, for example, and then that has gone on and into just everyday phrases. I've talked to people who never played Cyberpunk who will use the term corpos. It is wild every time it happens. You know. Well, and I think there's that, but there's this little thing in me that's like, yeah, that really bad launch though. Doesn't this incentivize publishers to release shit that's unfinished and fix it later in the hopes of this will happen to them too? In which my response is, yeah, probably, and that sucks. That sucks super hard if that's the case. Because they always take the wrong lesson. Not we should make a genre-defining game in a unique setting that is a technical benchmark and plays amazing, even if it took an extra year of work. No, what they're gonna learn is, release it broken and the idiots will buy it. I think part of the reason that CD Projekt Red got this slack from the game community as a whole also, and why CD Projekt, like, people were willing to hang around for what was going on with that, is The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 2 got such a was so beloved that they were willing to cut CD Projekt some slack, and I don't think the majority of AAA publishers are going to get that same level of grace. I think if Ubisoft took 8 years to release a new Splinter Cell, and it had some good bones, but was otherwise a broken, buggy nightmare mess, I think that no, they would not wait like 2 years for the game to be fixed and in a good state. I don't think that is something that they would do or even think about. So but the investors, the people, the money people, the marketing people do not understand that. They understand money printer go brr, and you can fix it later, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Cyberpunk's cool. You should play Cyberpunk if you haven't. It is a glorious look into our nightmare future. Every time I play that game, am sitting there going like, yeah, of course that's where all this is gonna go. This is exactly where humanity is gonna go. And there is no stopping it. This is the end game. It really does, when you play that game, feel like you are looking into Los Angeles 50 years from now. Like 100%. There is no doubt in my mind. It may not look that cool. If anything, I don't think it will be nearly as neon and pretty. But yeah, and then the game is fun to play. The shooting feels good. The hacking stuff feels good. I like the way you can build a character. And all this is deserved. It's a technical marvel. It's still one of the best looking games I've ever played, especially after the graphical updates, and it was released, 5 years ago. So good on you, CD Projekt. Hopefully the next one of these you release will actually be finished. That'd be nice. That'd be real good. Alrighty, so let's talk about the next news story. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are curious, this is tied. Cyberpunk is tied for the 24th best-selling game of all time with Tetris for the Game Boy. Little fun fact there. And The Witcher 3 is currently at 60 million units, which also crazy. That is crazy. All right. Moving forward, though, kind of our last news story and something that's going to take a while to go over and talk about and whatnot is last week. Oh, wrong window. Last week was the Xbox 360's 20th birthday, which, if you are like me, that makes you feel a million years old. And we gotta talk about it, and we kind of talked about how it's important to the industry, and how in my mind it's a top 5 console ever, and it's one of my favorites when I look back on it, and I look back on that period of time where, like, yeah, I really do love the living shit out of the Xbox 360. Um, with all of that said, though, we kind of talked about that, but then IGN, or I saw it after the podcast anyway. IGN put out this article, the top 20 games that define the Xbox 360. And note, and they even say here, not necessarily the best. All of them are great. These are not necessarily the best games on 360, but the ones that like define the Xbox 360. The games that, oh man, when you are looking at an Xbox 360, these are the games, dog. These are the ones that you are here for. Or that you remember vividly back at the time. I kind of want to go through it and give my take on it, and if I were to replace anything, where it would go, and kind of have fun with it. IGN is notorious for making long lists, as I saw last week with their top 100 Nintendo games. So let's see how Ryan McCaffrey did for this. We might as well get into it. I will say that the more I look back at the 360, the more it seems like it was a lucky one-off by Microsoft, because everything they have done since hasn't come nowhere near close to what the 360 did. All right, let's get into it. Number 20, 1 versus 100. This is something that I keep begging Microsoft to bring back. I don't think they ever will, because I don't even think the TV show is still going. I would love to see if someone would check that. But I don't even know if the TV show is still going as a whole, but I think this game was real cool. I think the fact that you could it was like scheduled, right? Like every hour on the hour, and then they would do the live version, like I think it was like once a day, from like a studio in Seattle, Redmond, wherever it was. It was just this memorable thing where like you and your friends would hop on, you'd see all your avatars and your little posse, and you would just be doing the trivia. And it'd be super fun. And I was never fortunate enough to be the one, but I was fortunate enough to win. I think I won like $1. Same thing in the story. I think most people won $1 playing 1 versus 100 at some point. Hold on. All right, for some reason OBS whoa. Hold on. Okay, for some reason OBS freaked out there for a second. But we're live. So anyway. But yeah, 1 versus 100 was this really unique thing that I feel that a lot of people don't remember outside of people who were really into the 360 at the time. And it's not you can't even play it. Like this was such an online service dependent game that there is no way to play it anymore. And that sucks. And I feel like everyone who played it would love for it to come back. I also think it would do super well in this day and age. Like Microsoft could be like, hey, you get Microsoft rewards points for coming and playing this game, and if you can win real life prizes and whatnot. I think it would still be really popular, and it was a bummer that it went away, and it is a bummer that you can't play it anymore, and just yeah. But when I do think back to the 360, this is kind of one of those standout moments from that like second era of Xbox when they were doing the NXE and doing the doing the Netflix stuff and trying to get more into the social gaming thing. So yeah, good pick. I think being lower on the list makes sense. I think that is a good call. All right, number 19. Viva Pinata. This is criminally too low. Actually, no. I think for a list that like defines the Xbox 360, it makes sense. And I think that this game did a couple of things for them. One, it showed Rare could still be like a powerhouse developer and release just an absolutely lights out game. Because they bought Rare in 2002. Their first game was grabbed by the Ghoulies. Kind of mediocre. Their next games were Perfect Dark and Cameo. Perfect Dark, I liked it at the time. Going back to it, it obviously was not as good as Call of Duty 2 or most of the other really good shooters of that day, even in 2005. It is a fine game, but it is very much a launch title. I think Cameo is great, but it is not nearly as critically beloved as Viva Pinata. I am very much in a minority of people who will tell you Cameo is awesome. If you have access to a Series X or S or a 360, you should play Cameo Elements of Power if you like adventure games. But Viva Pinata is the first one that felt like a critical darling. And it did something very important for Microsoft that I don't think a lot of people understand at the time, which is 2006, Xbox very much had this image of being the dude bro box. It was the dude bro box. It was the I'm gonna play Halo and Call of Duty 2 with the boys. And then, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, Gears of War, Mountain Dew. Set up set up the Xbox in the dorm room with the boys. And it wasn't really catering to anyone outside that audience. And Viva Pinata was one of those games, really the biggest game in my mind at the in 06 at least, that was showcasing, no, we can branch out. We are not just the dude bro box. I think it's an awesome game. I think this is a franchise that if you were to put out one today and put it on like Switch and Steam Deck, it would be insanely popular. Viva Pinata, for those of you who don't know, it's like kind of a farming sim meets kind of gardening sim with a little bit of Pokemon elements in, because you gotta get them into your garden and get them to stay. These little weird creature pinata people. And it looked amazing at the time. Still looks great now. Like I played that game. I played it recently in the living room, and it looks absolutely amazing. Even today, I think that, but like today with the popularity of games like Stardew Valley and Palia and Sunhaven, all these multi-million seller farming games, I think you could do a new Viva Pinata, and if you marketed it well and it was as good as the old ones, it would do gangbusters, dude. This is the kind of game that I think about, like my girlfriend would be into, right? Like, she's a big fan of all those games I mentioned. And I have been telling her basically the entire time we've been dating, yo, I think you would really love Viva Pinata. And they just need to do a proper PC port so she can see it for herself. Yeah, and they even say this, like, hey, in a world where Animal Crossing is a massive hit, I think that, Viva Pinata could potentially do well. And I agree. I think that Viva Pinata is a very big missed opportunity. They should have kept going with it. And I do think it was important and a defining moment for the early years of the Xbox 360 of like, we can be more than the dude bro box. It's just such a shame they only did one sequel. Real sequel. They have the DS game and whatnot, but yeah. Number 18, Lost Odyssey. The reason they cite this game is because it like showed Xbox's push into Japan to try and be successful in Japan. For those of you that don't remember, the original Xbox tanked in Japan. No one cared. Even when it had like good exclusive Japanese style games, the very few that existed on it, it was not a system that did well in Japan. So for the 360, they went out and they said, no, we are going to make this shit a success in Japan. And they went out and they paid for a bunch of goddamn games. They paid to get Final Fantasy XI ported to the Xbox 360, and it is one of the only games at the time where you didn't have to pay for Xbox Live in order to play it online. You just had to pay your Final Fantasy XI sub. through Play Online. That's how badly they wanted this. They were like, fine, you can skip the Xbox Live requirement. They paid to get Blue Dragon. They paid to get a new game from the Dragon, or not Dragon Quest. That is Blue Dragon though. They paid to get a new game from the Dynasty Warriors people, 99 Nights. And then the big one, one of the ones that Microsoft published, is from the Final Fantasy original creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi, and and it was Lost Odyssey. And it was the other one was Blue Dragon, which they bring up here. It was done by the Dragon Ball artist Akira Toriyama. But a lot of people consider the best of that bunch to be Lost Odyssey, and it came on 4 DVDs, and it sold well, or well enough. It sold well in Japan. It did okay in the US. The thing I remember about this game is it getting panned by Western game critics. For very much like, oh, this is the old style of RPGs. Like, it was in that era of games where Western critics and to a lesser extent Western fans were kind of shitting on Japanese design philosophy and Japanese game dev and like that kind of game philosophy. So Lost Odyssey was another one of those cases of like, reviewed kind of well, but it had a lot of that old game is old vibe to it amongst the press, and it was kind of being downplayed how good it actually was. But man, if you're looking for a really great cult classic JRPG, Lost Odyssey is up there. And I do think that if you're doing a top 20 games that defined the Xbox 360, you kind of have to do one of those games that is like, we're taking the Japanese audience, we're trying. And I think that 3 games come to mind for that. One is Blue Dragon, which was the one I was most excited for, and it's a shame that game didn't pan out as much as you would hope, because it was, cool. Lost Odyssey, or this was a huge moment. People couldn't believe it at the time. When Final Fantasy 13 was announced, it was going to be on 360 as well. That was a moment where it's like, why would I ever buy a PlayStation? Oh my god, Final Fantasy is on Xbox. And yeah, they made all these moves, man, and it obviously didn't pan out. No one gave a shit about the 360 again in Japan. They were like, these games are cool. I'm still gonna buy a PlayStation. I'm gonna buy a Wii. I'm gonna buy a DS or a PSP. Fuck your Xbox. Fuck you, Gaijin. Like, that's what it was. So, but yeah, I think if you wanted to represent that is a good example. So, let's get to the next game. Dead Rising, number 17. Yeah, I think if you want to talk about the early days of the 360, I think Dead Rising is one of those games that you need to have. I think Dead Rising was a real system seller, especially like pre-Gears of War. And it was a game that, once again, it really showed off the tech of HD. Arguably too much, because if you were like me at the time, when this game came out, I had a CRT television still. I was very poor. So, for me, it meant all the text in the game and UI elements were fucking unreadable. But it was still impressive because you had all these goddamn zombies on the screen. Holy shit, look at this. And they're all interactable, and you can combine weapons and do crazy shit. And it just had these like really memorable, weird characters and weapons and vibe. And I think one thing that really helped is it came out when not a lot of games were out for the system yet. And it had a demo. And you could just play the demo over and over and over and over again until the full game was out. And it was also one of those games very early in the console's life where the achievements for it were a big deal. They bring up in the article here the zombie genocide achievement for killing the population of Willamette, 53,594. And yeah, dude, I remember friends who were like just sitting in private chat, grinding this achievement for literal days. to get it. And they, and it was one of those like first big holy shit, I did it achievements. Yeah, like I when I talk about the 360, it's kind of one of those games I feel like everybody had, everybody played. It was a technical showcase for the system, and it was awesome, like straight up. And we talked about it, and I'm glad they're doing a new one. Um, so yeah, and it was kind of one of those games that like with some other games that show up later on this list, felt like, oh holy shit, yeah, the 360 is doing something that the old shit couldn't do. All right, let's get to the next one. Geometry Wars Retro Evolved. Uh, yeah. So this was like one of the early Xbox Live Arcade games, like a downloadable only game that they would put out every Wednesday. Typically, it'd be smaller in scale. This was a launch title, and it was the most downloaded Xbox Live Arcade game. And this game was originally unlockable in PGR2, and it was wildly addictive. It's super simple. It's a twin joystick shooter where different shapes come out and follow you or do weird stuff, and you just play it forever. I will still go load up Geometry Wars. Like, I have it on my PC, I have it on the Xbox that's still set up in the living room, and yeah, occasionally I will just boot up Geometry Wars and do a session. It is wildly addictive to high score chase. The leaderboards are still fairly active for a game this old. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it was kind of one of the first. It's not an indie title because it was published by Microsoft and made by Bizarre Creations, but it was one of those first experiences you had on a console that here's a smaller experience made by a smaller team because it was a small sub team of Bizarre Creations that you can put out for it's $5. It was a $5 game and have an amazing time with. And it also was like an early proof of concept of, oh shit, it's really cool that we like, oh, I'm bored. Let's check the store. Let's get a game. Oh, this is $5. Download it and have a great time. Yeah. No, once again, early 360 memories, those first year, and that launch, like the launch to me very much stands out of like, okay, Call of Duty 2, Cameo, PGR, all great, and then Geometry Wars. And if you want to be honest, like, what is the best game of that list? It is probably Geometry Wars. It is the one that holds up the best. So yeah. All right, let's get moving. Next one. Number 15, Ninja Gaiden 2. This one's hard because the reason I have it on the list is because it was a like case of like, hey, we can bring hack and slashes to Xbox as well. And that's true because outside of the original Ninja Gaiden, most of that kind of game did not come to Xbox as much. It was very much a more PlayStation oriented thing. And Ninja Gaiden 2 is a great game. Like, straight up. Ninja Gaiden 2 is an awesome game. That remake that just put out is great. You should play that if you haven't, or if you like character action games. Or you should play the original. Either option is great. But I I don't know. I think that if you're doing a character action game for the 360, the more meaningful one in my mind is DMC4. And the reason I say that is Ninja Gaiden 2 is a great game, but it is not as good as the original. And you can say the same thing about DMC4. It's not as good as 3. But Ninja Gaiden was an Xbox exclusive. The original was. And, it was obvious that, oh, this is going to be an Xbox exclusive, which it was a timed exclusive. But I think that, like, DMC coming to Xbox was a lot bigger deal. Like, getting DMC4 on an Xbox and not having to buy a PS3 for it was a really big deal. And I think that it's kind of a better game than Ninja Gaiden 2. So, I still think it's a great game, and I do think Ninja Gaiden is one of those games that defines Xbox as a brand. I think about those first two games of how they were just Xbox exclusives and really associated with Xbox, and we're trying to push the tech of Xbox. So if you're coming at it from that standpoint, I can understand. That's where that's at in my mind, at least. So yeah. Um yeah, okay, that's fine. I'd put it a little bit lower as well. I'd probably drop it down to like 18 to 20. I think 15's a little high, but eh. Number 14. Blade. Ugh. This is the first one on here where I'm like, ugh, I don't think this should be here. I don't think you should put this here. Dog, I'm good. The thing is, it's hard for me to say this as well because, like, I understand Blade is actually a great game that a lot of people love. I just don't like Blade. That's the part about it that sucks for me is like I can't even like say much about this. It's poorly designed. It's just not for me. Um, but yeah, it was the first big hit in the summer of arcade. So from like '08 to I think 2013, 2014, Microsoft did this thing called the Summer of Arcade, which what it was is they would put out 4 to 5 very high profile, big name um, games for Xbox Live Arcade. Typically, either smaller titles from a AAA publisher or like a very well polished, high profile indie game. Blade was the first like mega hit indie game out of that. It was done by Jonathan Blow. It was smaller scope, and it's just this really cool painterly art style with challenging time manipulation based puzzles. Um, and you know, the funny thing here is it's just like they say if everyone wasn't paying attention to Xbox Live Arcade before Braid, they sure as heck did after. I actually think the game that out of the games that were listed in that first Summer of Arcade, Galaga Legions, Bionic Commando Rearm, Geometry Wars 2, Castle Crashers, and Braid, Castle Crashers, I feel, is the one that everybody I knew played and owned. Braid was like the niche game for people who were really fucking into video games. Braid was like for people like me, except I didn't enjoy it. Uh, versus like Castle Crashers is what everyone played. Like everyone I knew owned Castle Crashers. Everyone I knew was playing Castle Crashers. I personally like put Castle Crashers here because I don't particularly care for Blade. But I understand why you would have it here. Is the thing. I understand why it's here. I just would rather put Castle Crashers or something else. All right, let's get to the next one. Crackdown. Ah, yes, the free game that came with the Halo 3 beta. What I jokingly call it. I mean, Crackdown is a game that, like I said, if you are making a list of games that define the Xbox 360, not necessarily the best games, but define it, Crackdown's up there. I feel like anybody who had a 360 from like that first year onward had Crackdown, knew about Crackdown, bought Crackdown to get into the Halo 3 beta, and they played a lot of it. They checked it out because well, I bought it to play the beta, and then they genuinely had a good time with it because yeah, nowadays you can get a lot of cool games where you leap tall buildings, do the superhero thing, in an open world. There's Prototype, there's Infamous, there's Spider-Man, there's to a lesser extent Batman, Arkham Knight. Like there's a lot of games that are open world superpower, Saints Row 4, but this was like kind of one of the first that tried to do the Grand Theft Auto thing, but with superpowers. And you progressively got stronger by doing stuff and getting agility orbs and going around playing the game. And then that ending, that bullshit twist ending, where it's like the cops are really the fucking bad guys. You're kind of an asshole. It was kind of sick. It was pretty sick. So yeah, like Crackdown is kind of one of those. I feel like everyone who was there for that early era of 360 bought this goddamn game, played a ton of it, and that's just kind of where I went, and it was just a moment in time. Uh, but yeah, I think that the big thing that comes to mind with this game is the fact that like they never expanded on the concept well. Like its sequels were not good, and that is unfortunate because this game was a really cool proof of concept. Like I think you could have done a lot with the sequels to Crackdown. I think a Crackdown 2 and a Crackdown 3 could have been the next big hits. Like you could have been superhero Grand Theft Auto. I guess just add it to the list of things Microsoft did not capitalize on in any way, shape, or form. Ugh. Got a frog in my throat. Not used to this much solo talking. Number 12, Forza Motorsport 3. Yeah, this shouldn't be high. It shouldn't be higher. I think that you talk about Xbox, and the thing that stands out is like it's always, we joke, but it's Gears, Halo, Fable, Forza, right? Gears, Halo, Fable, Forza, Halo, Gears, Fable, Forza. And I feel like Forza 3 is when Forza went from being like, yeah, it's Microsoft's, response to Gran Turismo to, oh, this is a better video game than Gran Turismo and most other driving games. It looked gorgeous. It was an absolutely stunning game visually. I think the rewind feature was a nice way to, help people who are new to the game, all the different assists, so you could slowly ramp up from being, handheld to being a full, like, motorsport, like pro, like with no assists. I think that, I don't think the simulation model was as good as GT, but it was close enough. And everything about Forza Motorsport 3 in comparison to Gran Turismo 5 or 6 was just a better game. It was just a better game, period. And every car had interiors, not just premium cars. And the online functioned like a normal video game and not some antiquated bullshit nightmare. And like, is it my favorite game on the racing game on the 360? No, that's PGR4 Burnout Paradise. But if you're talking about defined a 360, yeah, it's Forza 3, dude. This should honestly, like I said, be higher. This should be like top 10, if not maybe top 5. Like, yes, absolutely. So they do briefly talk about Kinect's legacy. They say Kinect wasn't everyone's favorite part of the 360, but it was an important part nevertheless, especially in the second half of the console lifecycle. And then there are two good games that define the original version of the hardware, Kinect Adventures and Dance Central. I don't think Kinect Adventures is a good game. I think their attempt to make a Wii Sports style thing is actually not very good. And I think that is proven by the fact that almost everyone who had a Kinect sold that shit. So I think there's that. Now, what I would say, I think you could have put, like, Enter the Gunstringer here instead. And that, or the gun, I think it's called Enter the Gunstringer. It's that puppet nightmare fuel ass game. It's a lot of fun. And then Dance Central. I actually think Dance Central should be on the list. I think you could take out one of those earlier games, like, say, Blade. Because I think Dance Central was the game that sold a lot of Kinects. I love Dance Central. It's part of why I still keep a 360 and a Kinect, like, around and easy to hook up, because that game is awesome. That is, especially if you have Dance Central 3 and you imported all the songs from 1 and 2 and you just play 1, 2, 3 with all the DLC on, like, that is a top fucking tier experience. It was the reason to buy a Kinect. I remember when I bought, I did not play Dance Central 1. I was at my first PAX in 2011, and I played Dance Central 2 at the Harmonix booth, and immediately had to save up to run out and buy a Kinect in Dance Central 2. It was that mind-blowing game. I had a super fun time with it. Still, it is like the one game where I think wouldn't be opposed to another Kinect. Just to get more Dance Central. So yeah, no, I think that should be on the list. It's a bummer that neither of the Connect games made it. Anyway, number 11, Left 4 Dead. Um, I because I have played it on PC basically since college. This is like in my mind a PC game, but I also know that like at the time a lot of people played it on 360, including myself. Like I remember renting it and playing it with friends and getting in the beta and playing that with friends and thinking it was awesome. It's if you want to get like top 10 best 360 games or top 20 best, it would have to be on there. Specifically the second one. I very much remember this game as well because it came out when like horde modes and zombie modes and co-op modes got really big on the 360. Because you had this period in like 08, 09 where you had horde mode coming to Gears, zombies come to Call of Duty, Firefight come to Halo, and then Left 4 Dead came out. And all those experiences are fucking awesome. But Left 4 Dead was the best one. And, you know, it's partially because it's a full game and not just a mode. But yeah, that game is infinitely replayable because of the AI director. And, you know, it's a great experience to play with friends. You know, I play it almost every year, at least a little bit. And yeah, it kind of defined that co-op era on the 360 in my mind. And it was one of those Xbox Live stalwarts that was there over and over and over again. Not much to say about it though. Like I want another one. I would love a third one. I don't know how you improve it is the problem. Like the second one is perfect, you know. So there's that. But yeah, this deserves to be there. I think it's one of the. This is another one of those games that sold a lot of goddamn Xboxes. Like if you did not want to get into PC gaming, Left 4 Dead sold a lot of people play co-op Xboxes and Xbox Live. So yeah. Number 10, Limbo. Eh. I don't know, dude. I personally did not care for Limbo, and I don't necessarily think it's a game that defines the Xbox 360. You know, I think that because there was this by then Xbox Live Arcade was like established. You know, some of Arcade was rolling. You know, games like Shadow Complex and Braid and whatnot were they were out. They were out, dude. And I personally did not like the way Limbo played. I think it is artsy for the sake of being artsy and not actually having a point or message to say beyond look at this depressing, morbid piece of shit. Uh, I know that's a hot take for sure. But yeah. So, and I think that if you want to highlight games that like really blew up the Xbox Live Arcade, um, Limbo is not my first choice for that. I think back to that era, that like 2008 to like 2012 Xbox Live Arcade. If you need to put another game here, like I would do Shadow Complex. Like everyone I knew played Shadow Complex, and it was very popular, and it was a great game. And like I don't know why you're putting this. Like I don't understand. I think it was very critically beloved, and they say the perfect rebuttal to film critic Roger Ebert's assertion from 3 months before Limbo's release that Xbox or video games weren't and could never be art. And I'm like, it's okay, I guess. But I don't agree with the statement that it cemented Microsoft's already established small games platform as one of the best things about the 360. I'm like, dude, that was by the time Limbo rolled around, like that was already in place. I mean, if you want like a game that came out a year later, like Bastion, I think Bastion fits here better. I associate Bastion fully with the Xbox 360 as well. Like that is a 360 exclusive in my mind in some ways, even though I have since played it on a computer. But I think maybe this is, and also like if you're gonna put this here, I think it should be lower. Like I think that if you want, I think the earlier release of Braid is a better fit as well. I don't know what to tell you. Super Meat Boy, put that here. There's a lot of game, Explosion Man. There was a lot of big XBLA hits that could go here that I don't necessarily think Limbo deserves. Braid, I understood more. Limbo, eh. I have a funny memory of Limbo, like trying it for the first time, because they used to have a trial for every Xbox Live Arcade game. You could play every Xbox Live Arcade game for, I think, I'm not sure if there was a time limit or it was just like whatever the developer set. But I remember playing that game and going through the trial with my friend Joe. We're just kind of hanging out playing the game. And like, we jump a little too far to where it kills the character. We hear both his legs snap. He leans forward, and then his eyes close. He falls forward, dies. It says game over, and we just laugh super hard, which says says everything about the mindset of college age boys. You know. All right, let's get to the next one. Rock Band. Yes, absolutely yes. 110% yes. Arguably should be higher. If you want to talk about games that define the Xbox 360, and really that era of video games, like that 2006 to 2012, 13 era, it is Rock Band and Guitar Hero, and Rock Band is the better game. Like, there were multiple points where I would show up to parties in high school and college, and Rock Band would be set up and rolling. There were multiple weekends, almost an entire year and a half worth of people coming down to my basement, or then when I moved, going upstairs to the main bedroom, the upstairs bedroom, and just playing Rock Band for an entire weekend. Like my friend, I remember my friend Mitch and I blew through the entire campaign of the original Rock Band in one weekend. Like I was singing the entire time. My voice was entirely shit by the end of that weekend. I had an amazing time. And I remember checking the DLC releases every week to see if there was new cool music coming. Like almost every other week, I was buying goddamn Rock Band music. And yeah, it wasn't exclusive to 360, but it very much defined the console. But like I don't think that, like, if you're talking about certain eras of video games and certain consoles, Rock Band and the 360 are linked, and that is a game that defines the fuck out of that system. Um, like I remember people like doing the achievement of like, oh, play the entire set list from the game in one shot. You know, so yeah, no, that game, it was awesome. I've talked about Rock Band to death on this channel. I would love to see it come back in a real fashion and not just some bullshit Fortnite thing. I don't think it ever will. And it bums me out because it's a cool experience. Like I played some of it recently. I went back and played 4 when they said, hey, we're taking all this music down over time. And I bought a bunch of DLC and I played some guitar and I had a great time. And I was like, man, it is a shame that current generations of gamers will not get to experience this unless they have a parent like me who was really attached and kept all that stuff. It is an awesome game. It's an awesome franchise. You all should play Rock Band. All right, number 8. Let's go now. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Yeah, this was so the 360 didn't really have a killer launch title. It had some great games at launch. I really enjoyed COD and Condemned and, PGR3. I loved Cameo. Dead or Alive would come out a month later. I played that game to death. Full Auto came out in February. Was kind of a disappointment. Then you had then had a really packed March. You had Ghost Recon, which is a great game. Fight Night, but Ghost Recon was kind of short. Fight Night, same thing, great game, kind of short. If you got all, by the time you got all the achievements and did everything you wanted to do, it was, like you were pretty done. And then finally, and then Oblivion. And I remember not being that into Oblivion. I remember or not like after I played it, but like I played that game because I had finished everything else. Like I had beat Condemned, I'm done with Perfect Dark. I 100%ed PGR3, like played my share of COD and whatnot. beat Gaw, beat Fight Night. I was like, ugh, sure, I'll GameFly this or rent this. No, I was still renting a Blockbuster at that time. Jesus, this was a long time ago. And I remember getting out into that open world segment. Like, you go through the sewers and, it's all very cinematic and hype. They have a great intro. And you get out to the sewers and you see the big open world. And I had a very similar moment with World of Warcraft, but in this case, it was like that, but way, 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 way prettier. Now it looks like garbage, of course, but back then, mind-blowing. And just fucking blew my goddamn mind. And the fact that you could go goddamn anywhere. And I remember, like, swimming across the way and finding that town that's been turned invisible, and you have to get the cure from that fucking dickhead mage who, after he gives me the cure, I cure the city and go back and murder him for being such a dick. On an industry level, it was kind of like one of those games that, like, a lot of those early 360 games couldn't be done on PS2 or original Xbox, but you kind of felt they made some tweaks that could make it one of the play. Like, no way this is running on an original Xbox. Get the fuck out. It's not happening. And then another thing with it is Western RPGs were not a popular genre on console at the time. They would come out on occasion. You'd get your games like KOTOR or Jade Empire, but they were not like super mass market, mass appeal type things. Like, Morrowind came out on the original Xbox, no one gave a shit. And part of that's just because it played weird and it looked bad. But then, like, this game looked amazing. They sanded down some of the rougher edges, and I realized that people, will complain about, lost some depth in that transition. It did. Was not enough to where it, like, hurt the experience too much. And I feel like this game is a big part of why you saw the explosion of Western RPGs in North America, especially on what the bigger market at the time was, which was console. You saw Western, you saw Mass Effect do well. You saw, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, especially, Witcher 2, Witcher 3. All these games kind of were riding on what Oblivion set up early in the console's life. And while not as much as Viva Pinata, it also showed that, hey, the Xbox is not just the dude bro box. Which, another big one. They briefly bring up the indie explosion, which I talked a lot about those when I talked about Limbo. Yeah, like Fez and Super Meat Boy, also great options. I do think the Xbox, I miss Xbox Live Arcade. I think and I do wish platform holders would do that more, where, like, PlayStation or Nintendo or Sony, and to be fair, Nintendo kind of does it now, where it's like, these are some great indie games that we are going to promote with their Nindies platform. I would like to see that more. I would like to see, like, during the summer or during the winter, like, here, we're going to highlight 5 really dope, very polished indie games on our platform. I think that'd be very cool. I think that someone needs to run with that idea. Anyway, 7, BioShock. Yeah, like, it was one of those games that, like, it was on PC as well, but the 360 version was a little better, a little more stable at the time. And it was one of those games that really showed off what that system could do. Oh, excuse me. Graphically, at least. I think that, like, it has one of the strongest intros to a game I've ever seen. You go down in the rapture, there's a man not entitled the sweat of his brow, that kind of thing. And yeah, it has some of the most memorable quotes, memorable moments in a video game. Probably one of the most, if not the most memorable ending on the 360. I think that it is. I don't think the series ever really topped this. And then I think the PC crowd got big mad because it wasn't as in depth as System Shock, but nobody cared because this was another case of them making a really cool game and sanding out the kind of rougher edges from its predecessor series, similar to going from Morrowind to Oblivion, similar case from System Shock 2 to Bioshock, where, okay, we're going to sand down some of these rougher edges to make this a little more palatable to sane, normal people. Yeah, it's definitely one of those games that got people to buy 360s, like, for sure. No doubt. I think it'd probably be a little lower, just because like I don't necessarily always think of it immediately, but that might just be me. Um, but yeah, one of the strongest intros or ending to a game ever. Easily should be in the top 20, probably the top 10 though. Number 6, Fable 2. Fable 2. It is fair to say that Fable 2 was the 360 Zelda. It wouldn't be fair to say, is what they say. It's a large-scale action-adventure RPG with charm and unique consequence system that will change your character's physical appearance based on how good or evil you are. And they go on and talk about it. Yeah, I think that if very similar to Forza, when you talk about Xbox, and like, what are Xbox games? What games define the Xbox brand? Up until recently, when they've been shooting themselves in the foot. Fable is a big part of that. As I said earlier, Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable, and yeah, like Fable 2 was the game that put Fable in that list. Like Fable 2 still holds up. Like that combat is awesome. The sense of humor is really good. What you do with those characters is a lot of fun. The dog. Everybody loved having that dog. They got fucking attached to that dog. It was also the game that taught me infidelity is not worth it. Because you actually had to manage your relationships, and if you had wives in multiple cities, you had to go visit them all and, like, to hang out with them. Not worth it. Not, besides being a bad person, of course. You shouldn't do that. But, there's an extraneous thing that goes along with it. Yeah, it's a bummer that like everything after this one kind of just fell apart. Like 3 decent game, cool ideas, didn't play well, had some glitches, and then they just did nothing after that. But no, it is definitely a game that defines the early days of the 360. Like I remember being super stoked for Fable 2 because I love Fable 1, and yeah, I put a ton of time into that. Talking with your friends about all the fucked up choices. The Wheel of Misfortune. This is another one I would love to see a PC port. Like, there are so many 360 games that similarly to the PS3 that are just trapped on the 360 or at minimum the Series S and X. And it was like, I would love for you to be ported to the computer so I can throw this box in the trash. Thank you. Or, yeah, probably realistically the closet. I don't want to throw something that expensive out, but Jesus. But yeah, no, I think that's I think you have to have Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable. So far, we've gotten 2 of those on the list. I have a feeling the other 2 are going to be in the top 5. Let's get into it. Number 5, Grand Theft Auto 4. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think that GTA 4 was one of those games that showed the 360 was for real. And what I mean by that is the Xbox 360 had a very... The original Xbox got the Grand Theft Auto games, but they came late. In some cases, more than a year later. And then on top of that, they were better, but nobody cared because, it was on PS2. And them not only getting GTA 4 day 1, same day as the PS3, so, if you were excited about all the other 360 games, you didn't have to go buy a PS3 as well. But getting the DLC as timed exclusive. Hey, if you want to play Lost and Damned, you want to play Ballad of Gay Tony, fuck you. If you want to play it immediately, buy an Xbox. And it was a huge deal. Like, I remember at the time, they're like, oh shit, well, that's another one. I don't, DMC3 is going over. Grand Theft Auto's going over. Like I don't. How the fuck am I gonna buy a PlayStation? Oh, but Metal Gear any day now, and Metal Gear never came, and Metal Gear was the reason I bought a PS3. But very much this was another huge like goddamn. Microsoft is getting for real. Uh, and yeah, GTA Online was great. It is still the best story in the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Like best narratively. Uh, just a very memorable game. And I remember, and they talk about this. Peter Moore revealed Halo 2's release date by rolling up his sleeve. He did the same thing with the Grand Theft Auto 4 logo to reveal it was coming to 360. And yeah, I think this was a big way to, after the releases of COD 4 and after the release of Halo, this was this was a real way to build credibility with the announcement of this was a real good way to build credibility for the Xbox brand even further. Like, hey, you had this great launch, you're set up for a great first year. Let's announce this and let's really get the Xbox brand down pat. Or let's show that we are a real competitor and this is a place to play. Don't buy a PlayStation. And yeah. So number 4, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I honestly think this should be top 2. If you want a game that really, at a minimum, top 3. I think that Call of Duty 2, great launch title, but Call of Duty 4 was the one that it's why Call of Duty is what it is today. It's why Call of Duty is still like every year a top 5 seller. Every year this big franchise that everyone talks about and loves. Like Call of Duty 4 was just it blew up. There's no other way to describe it. It is one of those games where if you owned a 360, you probably owned a copy of Call of Duty 4. The atmosphere in that campaign was amazing. People talking about the different missions. Like everyone I knew played that game talked about how sick the nuke thing was, or all gillied up, or the ending, stuff like that. And then I think in the case of, it was one of those first games that started doing the progression system and multiplayer, like the unlocks, and great maps, great great gameplay, and from that entire generation, Call of Duty was associated with Xbox. And, you would watch the E3 press conference, or you would go to E3 and you would sit through the Xbox show, and at one point, Call of Duty would be there. And that all is because of Call of Duty 4. So much so that, even though you can play it on PlayStation, unless all you owned was a PlayStation, you were going to play Call of Duty on Xbox. That's where everyone was, too. And that's where the multiplayer was. And, yeah, it was a fucking experience, man. COD 4, it not only defines the console, one of the defining games of that generation. And it was one of those games where it was really easy to get into matches, very similar to Halo 3, which came out, a little bit earlier, and just yes. Call of Duty 4 still holds up. Like I played that remaster not that long ago, and that game's campaign is still sick, and its multiplayer is still a lot of fun. So no, I think that if you talk about games that define the Xbox and sold a lot of Xboxes, Modern Warfare, absolutely. Number 3, Mass Effect 1. Okay, if we're talking about quality, I think this is I think 2 is better. If you're talking about define the Xbox, I think this should actually be a little lower. I think it is a great game. I think it, like Oblivion, I think this and Oblivion should probably swap places almost. Because, Western RPGs on the system, Oblivion was kind of the one that made, walked so Mass Effect could run. That said, yeah, Mass Effect was hot at the time and on the system. Like it was another one of those games that helped grow Western RPGs and really cement that stuff on console. Of course, the the trilogy nature of it is, was kind of mind blowing. The choices, the way it looked, its soundtrack, uh, and it felt like a game that was like just. It is a small game when you examine it and you get to know it, but the first time you play Mass Effect, it feels like the biggest fucking game in the world. Because it's the entirety of space, especially at the time. Oh, yeah, I don't necessarily think that. Ah, God. And I think one of the hard parts for me also is it's like it defines the 360, but it is not one of the like games burned into my memory. And I think part of that's because I also have played it on PC and PlayStation since this game's release. And because I was kind of lukewarm on the first one, the way it played. But yeah, man. Like I think that is a cinematic masterpiece. I do think it's one of the games that defines the 360. It's just I feel it's like 1/3 of that experience as well, which is another reason I'd probably have it lower. But yeah, I think it deserves to be yes. Number 2, Gears of War. This is another case where it's like this is the games that defined it, not the best ones. I think the best Gears game is 3, but if you're talking about the ones that defined it, yeah, Gears of War. Yes, this absolutely should be number 2. Uh, look, the story, it says here, the story was Epic Games asked Microsoft to double the amount of RAM in the Xbox 360 to make Gears and Unreal run better, and they did. Gears of War was the game that was like the 360's coming out party. The system was out for a year when Gears came out. System comes out November 22nd, 2025. This game's out like November 7th, I think, something like that. 2006, or sorry, 2005. November 22nd, 2005. This game comes out November 7th, 8th, something like that. 2006. And it is a visual showcase. Like, Gears of War 1 looks jank, is blurry as shit now, but at the time, that was a visual fucking masterpiece. I cannot describe to you how much better Gears of War looked than every other fucking game on the market. It had a great co-op campaign. It was a great reason to play split screen, and an even better reason to have Xbox Live. The multiplayer, it wasn't, quite where Halo 2 was, or Halo 3 and Modern Warfare later with matching, but it was a rock solid multiplayer, great sound, memorable characters, throughout this little thing. I've talked about Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable. This is another case of, it is the Gears, and that Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable. And yeah, dude, it's like, yo, we have one of our other big franchises. This is going to be a forever thing for us. Like Mario is for Nintendo, Zelda is for Nintendo, God of War is for PlayStation. Gears is going to be one of those for us. And yeah, and I played that remaster earlier this year, and I have my complaints about it for sure. Like, it's, relative to where the series goes, the original feels almost like a tech demo today. But that core gameplay still feels awesome. Like, I went through that game and I was like, okay, I got some beef with this compared to later entries in the series, but this core loop is still real good. It still feels real good. The shooting, everything feels just heavy and weighty, and when you chainsaw a dude or get a headshot, those fucking sound effects, like, yeah. Yeah, and I, and if you want to talk about the long term of these franchises, like, outside, like, if you talk about Gears, Halo, Forza, Fable, and not including Horizon, because I'm talking about Forza Motorsport, Gears is probably the one that's, like, in the best spot still. Halo Infinite just put out its last update 4 years into a 10-year plan. The MCC is basically just a server maintenance game that people play at this point. Fable, its reboot's been in development hell. The recent Forza Motorsport got its, disappointed and got it, even once it got to a good place, the team got gutted. Versus Gears 4 and 5 were good games. Were they as good as 3? Not really. but they're still really good games, and they tried some stuff, and certainly a lot better than where Halo 4 and 5 went, comparatively, and same thing with Forza 5, 6, and 7, and, Fable didn't even really get a real game past 3. So, yeah, like, I think Gears is probably Microsoft's strongest game at this point from, like, these old days, at least. And, Gears, like, you can't talk about the 360 without talking about Gears of War. What it did in those first days, what it did, for the system, uh, like, just, yeah, like, just people talking about the story and the characters, and just, yeah, man, you want to talk about games that define the 360, Gears is definitely there. Uh, yeah, I feel like you can't talk about that game, or really even that era of games, without Gears, because, you look at all the games that Gears will go on to inspire. Your Army of Twos, for example. Perfect to look. All right, number one. This is no surprise, Halo 3. Look, man, this game sold 17 million copies on a system that sold like 80 million units. That means almost a fourth of all people who bought a 360, which probably more, because the Red Ring problem we've all talked about, own Halo 3. And I think that this is gonna be a fucking, maybe a controversial take, I'm not necessarily sure. It's it is the game that is probably the most complete on the platform. It has an amazing campaign from start to finish. It has a fantastic competitive and casual multiplayer, super good co-op campaign. The map editor, while kind of rudimentary today, was mind-blowing at the time. The film stuff was really cool, really neat, like fun to mess around with. Every goddamn part of this game was a polished masterpiece, and it had a great competitive multiplayer. And I pretty much almost everyone who had an Xbox 360 had a Halo group, has a Halo story. I remember in my high school we had a gamers club that turned into one of two things. It was either Rock Band Club, where people would play Rock Band, and Halo Club, where people would do Halo lands, and they had Halo tournaments. And, the marketing blitz for this game was crazy. Like 7-Eleven Slurpees and cars, and they cross-marketed a fucking Zune. Yo, dog, you get a Halo 3 Zune. If you were weird and didn't own an iPod. I was weird in a different way. I listened to music on a Creative Zen Nano and then later a PSP. So I'm extra weird in that sense. But, yeah, no, I think that it is... like, Halo will forever be linked to Xbox, and the peak of Xbox, of course, has the peak Halo, which is Halo 3. And you look at the lead up to it, you look at the midnight launch, you look at the online infrastructure, and it was the peak. It was the peak of the Xbox almost, and it was the peak of Halo in the cultural zeitgeist. Halo today. I know this may be weird for people who are, like younger than 26, 27, which is almost no one listening to this podcast, but Halo was just a dominant cultural force. Like you couldn't get away from it. T-shirts being sold in mainstream area, stores, like just it was everywhere. There's a video on YouTube. I forget who it's by. Just look it up. Like Halo 3's insane marketing campaign. It's like 30 minutes of just talking about all the insane shit he did to promote Halo 3. And it was everywhere, and everyone played it. And it is the only time I can think of to where I logged on to a platform. This is Steam, any Nintendo platform, any Xbox platform, any PlayStation platform, where everybody is playing the same goddamn game and everybody is online. I had a near full Xbox 360 friends list at that point. Everybody was online, and all 100 people, 98 of them were playing Halo 3. One was playing Halo 2, one was playing Gears. It was a mind-blowing experience to see. The only thing even close I've seen is when like a very like over half my PlayStation friend list played Destiny 1 when it came out. And a lot of that is because those are the dudes who made Halo 3. Um, it's sad to see because now Halo is a game for dads on the dad box. Yeah, it's what it is. So yeah, I don't know. Pretty good list of it all. A lot of the times IGN butchers stuff, but there's really only a couple complaints I have. And this is obviously a like defined list. But what was the defining achievement? Oh, it's Halo 3. And most people agree it's Halo 3. A couple people say Gears, some say Mass Effect. Some say, yeah, you know, it's I don't know. It's Halo 3. But yeah, the games that define the 360, that's it. Other defining experiences of 360, replacing it multiple times because it keeps red winging and dying. That's probably my most popular game on my 360. I would love to do it like the top 20 games, not just defined, but like top 20 games for the Xbox 360. Because I feel that is I've said before, it is at minimum a top, 3 console, or top 5 console, realistically top 3. Like it is a sick device. And the longer Microsoft goes with the Xbox, the more it feels like the 360 is. They got lucky. It's what it feels like. It's like, we got lucky. All right, let's get this going. All right, so now on to what I've been playing. Not much new. I did put some time into Kirby Air Riders. I don't really have much to say in terms of quality. Like I just kind of feel constantly overwhelmed in the times I keep playing it. And it might be just because I keep playing it late at night, but it is just like it is the most overstimulating game I have almost ever played ever. Just because there is so much shit going on. It's like someone took 8-player Smash and turned it into a kart racing game. And it looks great, it plays great, it's a lot of fun, very snappy, good controls, looks amazing on the Switch 2, on the TV or on the system itself. Excuse me. But yeah, I think that it's one of those cases of, it's just it's overstimulating. Yeah. On the other side of that, put a bunch of time into Battlefield 6 still. I did not think I'd be playing this game as much as I did. Like, I liked it. I enjoyed the beta and I enjoyed the launch period, but like, whenever I am just in the mood to zone out into a game and not actively play something, I just go play Battlefield 6 and go and snipe a bunch of dudes. Like, I'm just going up into them hills and clicking on heads and blowing people's brains out. That's it. That's the long and short of it. Every now, and it's just nice to have a shooter where I don't have to be locked in 100% of the time. I'm playing COD, I'm locked in. When I'm playing Halo, locked in. Marvel Rivals, giga locked in. But when I'm playing this, it's just like, I can just sit here and keep repairing these dudes' tanks. I can just go up in the hills and snipe people. I can just, hide in this building and snipe people. Okay, if you're playing Medic, it's actually, like, really stressful because you are constantly hanging out where people are, where gunfire is. I actually played a match yesterday where I got 4th in experience in the game, and I revived 45 people. I was basically playing my own recreation of Hacksaw Ridge. Lord, let me save one more. Game was sick, though. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoying it. Keep playing Luminous. Keep trucking along with Luminous. Keep trying to get high scores in Luminous. I'm at the point though where every time I put in survival mode of Luminous Arise, it is a at minimum 1.5 hour session, which is why it is getting hard to play consistently. Because if I am going to play it, I am locking in for an hour or two. And that's just for one round because that's how long I will be surviving for. Um, let's see if there's anything else I played. I didn't mark down. Oh, Digimon Story Time Stranger and Recreation. Oh, got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. Don't normally do a solo show, so it's kind of harder. Yeah, I put a bunch of time into Digimon Story Time Stranger on my Steam Deck. This is where I want Pokemon to go. And the game isn't like some like glorious looking game, but like it looks, it looks better than where Pokemon like on the like spectrum of JRPG visuals where like that are like more cell shaded cartoons, like Persona 5 and Persona 3 Reload are like top tier. Pokemon is like bottom tier. This is like kind of in the middle, and I would love Pokemon to get here. Gameplay wise, it's very similar though. I will say, if you are the type of person who likes to grind to get strong, yeah, this game is it. Like, yeah, it does gate some stuff through the story, like where Digimon can evolve and whatnot. But otherwise, yo, dude, do you just want to grind yourself stupid? Like, early game, I made sure to sit and just, like, the first dungeon in the digital world I got into, and I literally just grinded it for, God, like 4 straight hours, just doing loops and starting the dungeon over so I can make sure all 6 of my main Digimon were champions and they were like stacked as they could go before going into the later zones. Like straight up. I am trying, like, I am grinding this game stupid. I am normally when I play a JRPG, I am like, I'll ease it in. No, I am going, yeah, and it's purely because I want my Digimon as evolved as they could possibly be. Uh, and I'm basically recreating, and I'm because I am a boomer Digimon fan, I really only care for the first 2 batches of kids. All of mine are from the first 2 series, which means my team is entirely like not balanced at all. I have 1 virus type and then a bunch of vaccines, and it is probably going to give me problems in the game. But I don't care, because, yo, dude, I am going to have a T-Rex with a rocket launcher on his chest, and that is sick as fuck. All right. Anyway. All right. Uh, and then put some more time into recreation. That game's kind of been my most chill game. It is also a game that like they continue to keep updating and supporting, and I want to support this developer for attempting to make even anything close to Burnout, because I just want games like Burnout, and I want people to buy this fucking game. It's actually the saddest thing in the world when I'm playing this game and I'm like on my friends list and I see, oh, all my entire leaderboard is just me for all these trials on the map because no one else is playing this game that I know. And that sucks because it's an awesome game. Like it launched kind of rough 2 months ago, but they've gotten in a pretty good state. I do think the map is still a little empty because they're obviously trying to let you build your own courses and maps for you to do with your friend. And I still think Burnout Paradise is a better game. But if you're like me and you've played Burnout Paradise to the point of being just sick of it, uh, you know, then hey man, recreation is there for you. and I hope that it keeps getting support and love. I unfortunately think I am going to be here alone because let's go look at Steam DB for recreation. Uh, let's see, recreations. Oh god, there's 10 people playing the game. Dear Christ. Yeah, like its all-time peak is 200 players. This game's cooked, dude. God. See, this is how you just, if you want an indie game or a game franchise to be cursed, just have me like it. It'll die. Don't worry. It'll get shot in the face. I'm surprised with that few players. They're well, to be fair, it might be doing well on PlayStation. But yeah, you all should play Recreation if you like Burnout. It's a sick game. It's a really dope game. I highly recommend it to basically everybody. Yeah, you should play some. It's real good stuff. And that's about it. That's it for the show. I will be back next week with hopefully me, Aaron, and Duncan. Hopefully you'll get the full crew next week. The holidays and the vacationing just kind of threw a wrench into things. We got some stuff planned for the new year. I got a video that's most of the way done. I'm hoping to have it out soon. Anthony, same thing. Aaron, same thing. You might be getting 3 videos all boom, 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 boom. Week soon here. And I love you beautiful people, and see you through the week, guys. Bye. Oh, and the split second LP is back on. First episode's up on the Let's Play channel, Super Game Craft Plays. Go give it a look. Bye, y'all.